Hello, this is the Progressive Cynic, and I'm making this video in order to address the leaked UN report saying that climate change could cause global sea level to rise by as much as 3 feet by the end of this century. First, let me say that global warming is a real problem, and the scientific consensus has been reached on whether or not it is anthropogenic or man-made. 99.7% of scientists agree that global warming is a real problem created by humans and is something that we will have to deal with in the future. The 0.3% of scientists who disagree with this are largely bought by oil interests, petrochemical interests, and sometimes just very rich people who have an ideological beef with regulation. In fact, Mike Papantonio, talk show host for Ring of Fire, has a very good term for these people: biostitutes. They are scientists who sell their expertise to the highest bidder and should not be listened to. Now that we have gotten the existence of climate change out of the way, we can get to the report. This UN report, which is not finalized but was leaked in its incomplete form, says that global climate change could cause the sea level to rise by as much as 3 feet or as little as 10 inches, depending on whether humans get our act together and actually start dealing with the problems which are facing us. Unfortunately, it appears extremely unlikely that we will be getting any significant reform on this issue before it becomes too late to actually change anything. Now, 3 feet may not sound like much in the grand scheme of things. I mean, we have buildings which are gigantic. They are hundreds of feet tall. You think 3 feet, we can deal with that. Unfortunately, we cannot. A 3-foot increase in sea level is deadly to many cities, which are the most populous in the planet. We're not talking small farming and fishing villages. New York, Miami, Shanghai, London, New Orleans, Venice, all of these cities will be virtually uninhabitable if we have a 3-foot increase in sea level. The first and most immediate problem will be the persistent flooding that comes with 3 additional feet of water at the coast. This in and of itself will render many streets and buildings completely impossible to sustain in the long run. There are only so many ways that you can stop water from coming in, and dikes and levees are not a perfect solution. This brings us to a second problem: flooding due to storms. In areas where we have storms, say Miami, or maybe even New York if you look at what happened during Superstorm Sandy, we have storm surges where the sea level rises due to the storm activity. Unfortunately, if you had a storm surge with 3 feet additional water at the coastline, we're going to have the very real potential of losing entire cities during a storm. In short, if we don't get a handle on this entire situation very quickly, we are all up shit creek without a paddle, and the water is rising. Now, it is certainly possible that the scientists have overestimated the potential effects of global climate change. It is also certainly possible that humanity can develop carbon collection tools or other weather modification devices which could help us prevent such flooding or storms. Unfortunately, neither of these are very likely, and it appears that we will all have to deal with the excesses of this generation and our overconsumption of fossil fuels. Now, there really isn't much that any one country can do, but if this report comes to the UN in its completed form and it announces that we are facing 3 feet as a potential increase in sea level, there is simply no way to argue that every single country needs to get behind a plan to stop global climate change. I mean, certainly if you live in Nepal, you're probably not going to have to deal with this. I mean, you're at such a high altitude, it doesn't affect you. But virtually every country which has a large population and a large amount of resources, is going to be affected by this. I mean, look, we either move now or we will suffer in the future.